I have been a reserve police officer with the Dallas Police Department for more than 34 years. This is a volunteer position, but I have received the same training as a full-time cop. Most Saturday nights, you will find me working by myself as a patrol officer in the northwest part of the city. My full-time job is sales. I travel the state of Texas selling Tom Ford sunglasses. I've been selling eyewear for 25 years. I got hooked on police work when I was a junior in high school. I got the chance to ride as a civilian observer in 1972. In 1978, I graduated from Sam Houston State University with a degree in criminal justice. For financial reasons, I chose sales as a full-time career, but being a cop was still in my blood. So on January 16, 1979, I started the Dallas Police Academy with the hope of gaining a position as a reserve police officer. Over the years, I have found that law enforcement is great sales training. It teaches me how to read people and analyze situations. It also helps me think on my feet. Being a cop has taught me how to get people to do what they may not want to do. I am under the gun every time I put on that blue uniform. Police officers are required to make split-second decisions in life and death situations. These actions will be critiqued by Monday morning quarterbacks for days, weeks, and months afterwards. The vast majority of officers never fire their weapon in the line of duty. I am proud to say that I am a part of that group. But there have been several times when this has been all too close to happening. A few years ago, I was the first officer on the scene of a suicide in progress call. A woman's brother had called. He told me that his sister was very depressed and off her meds. When I arrived at her home, the brother was standing outside and the front door was wide open. He did not know her location. My backup was several minutes away. Our tactics have changed since the tragic Columbine massacre in 1999. We are now trained to take care of possible active shooter situations without waiting for the cavalry to show up. If I didn't take immediate action, she might kill herself. I was about to enter her house when her brother's cell phone rang. Her name showed up on the caller ID. Without thinking, I grabbed the phone and identified myself. Her first words were, "I want to kill myself." My first thoughts were, "Oh my God, what do I do now?" I decided to let her talk so that she could get her emotions off of her chest. She told me how her husband had left her and that life wasn't worth living anymore. She did most of the talking, and I did most of the listening. I then told her that I needed to meet with her in order to help her with her problems. She told me that she was at her ex-husband's house and gave me the address. Without asking, I kept her brother's cell phone, got into my squad car, and headed to her location. I could have used 3 hands for the short trip. During the drive, I kept trying to talk her out of ending her life while also requesting on the police radio an ambulance and additional officers to her location. Somewhere in between these tasks, I managed to keep one hand on the steering wheel. Fortunately, her ex-husband arrived and calmed her down. I kept him on the phone until other officers arrived. We were then able to get her to a treatment facility. As a kid, I loved playing cops and robbers. And with reality-based training, I still get to do that. These are simulated exercises that are based on real incidents. The goal of this training is to make sure that we all go home safely at the end of our shift. During one session, I answered a call at a motel lobby. The subject was agitated. He was holding a tire iron above his head and was threatening to hit me with it. I drew my simulated service weapon and loudly yelled, "Drop it!" He complied. Little did I know that 1 week later, I would be under the gun in a real situation that was all too similar. That Saturday night, I answered another suicide call. The caller stated that his partner had returned home and was acting distraught. He was off his meds and wanted to walk to a nearby overpass and jump onto the highway below. I was the first officer to arrive. Upon entering the apartment, I could immediately tell that this person was in severe emotional distress. His hands were tightly holding his shirt in front of his chest. His body language told me not to agitate him any further. I told him that I was there to help him. He said, "I want to end it all. I can't live like this anymore." Soon 2 other officers arrived. Now that I had backup, it was time to take action. We told him we were going to take him somewhere to get help. He started to fight us when we attempted to handcuff him. He pushed us away and ran into the kitchen. I was the first one to follow him, with the other officers close behind. The kitchen was in an L shape. The top of the L had no exit. That's where I ended up. It was not a good place to be. The other officers were at the kitchen entrance. The subject had his back to the kitchen counter, and my back was to some cabinets. We faced each other from 6 feet away. The citizen put his hands on a large butcher knife and said he wanted to end it all. We now had a suicide by cop on our hands. He wanted us to put him out of his misery. Instinctively, our guns cleared leather and were pointed right at him. Based on all of these factors, we would have been justified in firing our weapons. He could have stabbed me with that knife before I had time to react. But we held our fire. I loudly said, "Take your hands off the knife now." Fortunately, a few minutes later, he complied. I holstered my gun and told the other officers that I was going to get the knife out of the way. I moved in and grabbed it and handed it to one of the other officers. Now we had a different situation on our hands. Time was on our side. After several minutes, he allowed us to handcuff him. We were able to get him to a hospital for some much-needed help. It was amazing how the training instinctively kicked in. There were 2 positive outcomes. He went to the hospital instead of the morgue, and we went home safely at the end of our shift. I've asked myself many times, why didn't I fire my weapon? I know that I would have fired had he raised the knife. I'd like to think that my years of experience led me to believe that he didn't want to end it and that he was crying out for help. You are probably wondering, why does this guy do this for free? I could go on all night telling you more stories. I've been lucky enough to have simultaneous careers that I really love. Being in sales is my wife. Being a cop is my mistress. Both are like being an artist. Some artists work with clay, others work with paint. I'm an artist that works with words. In life, you can catch more flies with honey than you can with vinegar. In sales, I have a loyal clientele. My motto is, they don't care about what you know unless they know you care. My motto as a cop is, it's a whole lot easier to talk them into the jailhouse than it is to fight them. All of the officers and supervisors at the station now call me Mr. Miller. At first that made me feel really old, but now I appreciate it as a sign of respect. Why am I still working the streets? Picture this. A hot call is dispatched on the radio. It could be a shooting, it could be a stabbing, or another officer in need of immediate assistance. I turn on those lights and siren and speed to the location. I still get that surge of adrenaline. And I know that I'm doing what I need to be doing, and I'm exactly where I need to be. And I'm still having fun doing it.